You mentioned that you were bulimic and anorexic at a very young age, at the age of 15 or so. Something that I am still trying to understand is that are these conditions a result of the pressure of the society, or are they something that people experience because of the foods that we normally eat, or is it something from within rather than without, like social factors? Is it something psychological from inside? As someone who has experienced it, which one of these or combination of these do you think is the factor? Is the
Okay.
influence?
Yeah, actually a really good question. And I think that there are multiple answers to that. There's not a one set thing that necessarily, oh, this is exactly what it is for everybody. No. For me, and this is something I've honestly just recently understood the past like year and a half, something like that, that my issues as far as the the eating disorders, exercise disorders was twofold. Number one, sugar addiction was the root cause of all this. And it was my way of trying to control my food because I was completely out of control at that point and I didn't know what else to do. So when I understood, I had a friend who started doing the bulimia thing, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that's kind of cool. I don't have to give up anything. And then I still purge all the calories, right?" So I thought it was kind of a cool idea. So once I started it, I couldn't stop. It became like this another addictive thing. And that was part of my addictive personality that I now understand. But it also did not help, like, when I talked about when I was, like, 10 and started to develop and the girls would make fun of me because they were super flat-chested, and I mean, not that I was big-chested, but, I wasn't flat like those 10-year-old girls were, and I was only 5 foot or I don't well, I don't know how old I was, but like I said, I'm only 5'2" now. I was always, like, the 2nd shortest in the class, never the shortest, but right there, and so, when you have this little more of a little short body versus these long, skinny bodies that are growing at the time, it makes it even that much worse. Anyhow, I would get made fun of. And then, of course, the boys kind of look at you. But at 10, back then, boys weren't quite as into girls as 10-year-olds now. But so I got a little bit of attention from the boys, but I got a lot of teasing from the girls. And it made me really doubt my body that and to think that something was wrong. And so I tried to fix it. And because I was being called fat and those kind of things, I translated that my problem is fat. And what do you do about fat? You go on a diet. And I would watch my mom do this constantly. She was scared to death to be like her family who was very overweight. So she was always very cautious, always eating salads, low fat everything. You know how that all goes.
Yeah.
And so that's what I grew up with. And I would watch this too. And I now realize that my kids watched me do things too. And I'm like, oh God, But, it's not an on purpose thing, but you do see how the people around you react. And so I had all this internalization going on. And then the fact that I was already a sugar addict at that point, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't do it. Like, when I hit my worst at the age of 15, I got my first paycheck. It was like 200 and something dollars. And this was back in the 80s. Like I said, that's a lot of money, right? But it was, how it takes a month and then you get a paycheck kind of thing. So that's why. And it was a summer job. I took that paycheck to the grocery store and I bought 200 and whatever it was, dollars worth of food. Little
Oh,
Debbie
picture.
snack cakes. Uh-huh. The whole paycheck. It was mainly sweets, but there were a few other things. It was mainly like Little Debbie snack cakes, ice cream, and I would hide all this stuff. And I ended up eating almost every single thing that I bought in one afternoon. I was at home by myself. My parents were at work and my brother was away from the house. So I sat in my room and I ate, and then I would puke and I would puke, and then I'd eat and I puke. That was my lowest point right there. That's when I was like, "Ooh, yeah, I have a problem." But at that point, what am I gonna do about it? I'm already in the midst of it. I don't know how to control it. I don't want to gain weight, that kind of thing. I can't give up my food that I love. So this is my life. I tried the, anorexic route, whatever you want to call, where I just stopped eating. I just stopped eating. And I couldn't if I did accidentally put something in my mouth, I would freak, like completely freak, and then I would go and throw it up. So, that's kind of one of those things. So it just really depends, honestly. I feel that a lot of people who have eating disorders, it is rooted in sugar addiction, food addiction. And that's just their way of controlling the uncontrollable behavior they have. That's how they try to rein it in. Now, that does not mean that everybody who has an eating disorder is a sugar addict. No, it does not mean that. But it does play a big part. And of course, I do believe that you have another thing that kind of hits with some of this is when you've had childhood trauma, like some major issues happen. And for me, right at that 10-year age mark, along with everything else going on, my parents separated, or got divorced. And that was my most traumatizing thing to ever happen to me until June when my mother passed. But that was, like, so traumatic to me, and I think that that kinda really nudged that behavior. So I had the sugar addiction, I had the, traumatic event, and it just kinda morphed on through everything, and then I had this poor self-image. So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think we can just say, "Oh, it's just all psychological," or, "Oh, it's just all societal," or, "Oh, it's just, whatever." I think there's just so many pieces to the puzzle, and we're just kinda starting to really understand some aspects of it.